Hello, guys. It's another episode of Enter the Matrix. Today, I'm joined by Cathal. Cathal is captain of Northern Ireland. I'm correct,
Yeah,
right? Not
yeah,
regular
that's the
Ireland.
one.
You hate each other, right?
We're diet.
Uh,
We're diet.
cool. So usually there's someone co-hosting with me, but this time nobody wanted. I guess maybe they just don't like you, Cathal.
I have that effect.
I don't know, but they sent me some questions I should ask you, although they are very not children friendly, I would say. So maybe let's leave it for later. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Cathal. I'm captain of Team Northern Ireland. Currently been playing the game for about 4 years ish. Um, Got into the hobby really. I got into the hobby when I was like a kid, 15, 16. You know what I mean? In school, you play with your friends and stuff. Nothing competitive. And then you get a bit older. You start working. You drop out of the game, right? And then as I was a wee bit older, I was in Portugal on holiday, and I had a dream that I started playing again. So while taking a hangover shit, I went onto eBay and I bought some random models, just like spent 30 quid here and there. And
Hmm.
then the next thing you know, I had a Blood Angels army and I was playing on my living room floor trying to beat people. And then it just sort of progressed from there. Who can I play now? I've beat these two guys. Let's see who else there is. And I ended up finding a good community, local, and going to someone's house. And then that just snowballed from there. It was pretty good.
So
Um,
you started like just before COVID, right? Like 1 year
yeah,
before COVID,
yeah.
kind of. Okay, cool. So you didn't had much exposure to the whole WTC community at the very beginning. How tight is it in Northern Ireland?
We so our whole season. It's kind of funny. We have got a small group of players that are interested in playing for the team and are interested in the team meta. And altogether in our ranking system, there's around 100 players. Okay. Now, out of that 100 players, you have 20 that are like real into the team, constantly in the chat, constantly on Discord, playing TTS, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got maybe another 10 on the verge. And then just the other 70s, like guys that just come down after painting some models or new guys or something like that. So our community is quite small, but a lot of it is focused. All our tournaments are WTC scoring. We try and make it WTC tables, and we put a lot of effort into getting to the WTC and then working from there. Um, so yeah, it's like our community is quite small, but we're pushed towards WTC. So
Yeah. That makes sense. And you got exposed to the whole idea of WTC. How you got players that just
so
mentioned that they played, or
no, so what happened was the way the team used to be picked was the top eight in the ranking system were the team. I was your top eight. It was like seven in the captain, right? And what happened the first year I started playing, I had played two tournaments and I had came like fifth and then third. So with Blood Angels and Eldar, I was like, right, okay, this is pretty good. But I was ranked like 17th or something. And when we were going, home nations was happening. And the thing about Northern Ireland normally is we can either get a team to go to home nations as a full team, or we get a full team to go to WTC. You can never get a full team to go to both because guys can't get work off, guys can't afford it. You know what I mean? Life happens, right?
okay?
So the first year that I played two tournaments, sitting 17th, I then got asked to go to the home nations. So went away to home nations, and that's when I got bit by the bug. So we played Ireland first, then England, and I played Tony Chu in an Eldar mirror match, and I got absolutely fucked. It was glorious. It was really good. But from then, I
Well,
was
he's
like,
a
wow,
great guy to actually get fucked at your first like WTC event.
yeah.
Like,
It was home nations. It wasn't even WTC. So that was really good. So that's what got me like really into it. I was like, wow, this is top. You start to see people that you've maybe listened to a podcast. Oh, geez, I've heard of that guy. Oh, fuck, there he is. I'm playing against him. Oh, he's just beat me. But then you want to learn from it. And you want to go further and you want to go further. So that's where it started. And then from then, you're bit by the bug. So you're just like flat out, right? Team, 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 team. So
So you mentioned very early that you had a system of top eight going through to the team, and you
Yeah.
mentioned it in a way that inclined that it changed. Did it change
Yes.
in any?
So
Yeah.
I changed it. So and the reason why I changed it was really simple, right? So what I noticed was you would have like in the top eight players, you would have three or four of them played the same army, and they got good results because they took the broken thing, and that's cool, right? You can always you can't beat down on people because they want to play the game and they want to win. Okay, but what was happening was we ended up with like two or three players at the top that only played Dark Eldar, but they couldn't change to something else. So it then affected the rest of the team. So what we tried to do was, or what I changed it to, and I've changed it again this year slightly, is I changed it to four players, captain picks two, captain and vice captain. But this year I've changed it again, that it's going to be the top six players, or sorry, top four players, captain, vice captain, and then we're going to keep a squad open. So we've got from WTC last year, and we'll go over the result last year and how we prepared and stuff. But from that moment, we've had like 20 guys that are like, we want to get on the team, right? So we've been running like every 2 weeks, we run a team training night. So 2 weeks prior, who's coming, yes or no? Okay, we've got 12 guys coming. From those 12 guys, we're going to make two teams of six, and we're going to pair off, do a matrix, pair off, list a mission, pair off on the night, and play the games. And what we've found then is if we can keep that going, so if we know top four, you're auto on the team. Brilliant. Well done. You've pushed all year. You've been the top four. Captain and vice captain, they get a pick due to the charter. But then if I've got here baby in the back. He's just going down. But then if I have now two spaces open, but I have 8 people fighting for those spaces, it now keeps it competitive right the way through to WTC. And what I'd like to do, and we're sort of copying other countries, is we're like, right, this is our squad. We have a squad of 15 players, but everybody is going to WTC. We're going to have 8 players that are going to play. We've got 2 head coaches, and then we've got guys that are just there to come and have fun, keep the morale up, get water, get beer, get food, do whatever they have to do to keep everything going. And we'll also then have spare players if we need them. If someone gets sick or yeah, like you guys had it. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it that it constantly gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that when I step down next year, then someone else can step in and the foundation's already there. This is what you do. Top 4 players, captain, vice captain if they want to play. And then you keep it open and you keep the hunger there all the time. If I was to announce the 8 players, then what happens is as soon as we announce the 8 players, when it comes to team nights, we have those 8 players and we maybe have like 2 coaches. Whereas when you keep it open, then the hunger's there for the guys. They keep coming, they keep playing, they keep going to tournaments, they keep traveling down south for tournaments, they keep the finger on the pulse all the time. So that's the plan. Whether it works like that, we'll find out.
You will see.
Yeah.
So you touched upon a few things that I would like to delve a little bit further. First of all, you mentioned that it was always kind of hard for you to go both to home nations and the WTC itself because of
Mhm.
the time, etc. How does that work with you actually planning with going like the whole team?
So we
By whole team,
so
I mean like the 15 players to the
so
WTC itself.
what do you mean? How do we plan for that?
Yeah,
Well, what
like
I do
it
is
sounds
I
like yeah.
go ahead. So right, so
Okay,
by we get once we get to that stage, so our rankings finish in February, so we'll know who the top 6 players are, that the top four and the captain and vice captain. Then with the rest of the guys, they will know who is going to more than likely be on the team and who isn't, and then we'll just whittle it down. Now, logistically, all you do is you go, right, how many of us are going? 14. I have booked a hotel. It is 7 rooms. I have, these are the flights that we're getting. If you want to get a flight, this is where you can get it, or you can get this one. And you just put it into their court because at the end of the day, it's their money. People are still going to
Yeah.
spend like 5 or 600 quid to come away, and it's up to whether or not they really, really want to, and they're really driven to, and where they see themselves. Okay, they didn't get on the team this year, but they can be in a supporting role, and next year they are now got another foothold. They've seen what WTC is like, they've experienced it, and we'll have guys coming and going like every team.
Yeah. But
You
you
know,
want to keep the flow going, like to
yes,
not have a dead year because someone that was basically a working horse of your community just decided to stop for a year, right?
exactly, yeah. And we want guys to go away. We had 2 or 3 guys come last year. So we had Kieran come as a coach, and he's like plays every tournament, plays nothing but guard though, so he's happy now. But he came away with Michael Byrne, who was a real like. Michael would have played every time we had a TTS scrim. He played a TTS scrim. He would go to like every tournament. He would run tournaments if he needed to, but he just missed out on the rankings. But he came away as a coach and kept his nose blooded. Kept his fingers in there, and then that way, when the system happens next year, then he's got a gold star against his name. You know, these guys give their
Yeah.
time; they want to do it, and that's nearly more important. It's nearly more important to have guys that are really dedicated to the team sometimes than having a really good player, because you could have a really good player that just we throw him under the bus, he throws the head up, and the whole thing's fucked. Whereas these guys are dedicated to the team; they'll do anything for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, especially when you account for the fact that they will be playing 10th most likely, unless it is
Hmm.
released like late July or something. Then having guys who put the hours in will be even more important on your
Yeah,
end. And you also mentioned TTS scrims. I remember when we started doing TTS scrims during COVID, you were one of the teams that tried to adopt it quite early as well. How did it go
yeah.
for you guys?
It wasn't bad. I think it's a really good tool. Like it is, without a doubt. You need it if you're going to WTC and you want to play well. You have to have it, and all the countries now do it. Like I don't think there's anyone that doesn't. What we struggled with was,
US. US.
oh yeah, yeah,
They
well they're
don't.
trying this year, right? They're trying.
Yeah, they are trying.
Um, but what we found was like I could get like 6 players maybe, or 5 players, and then I was having to borrow players from the south. So ourselves and the Republic, we are like really, really tight. So myself and Pierce, who was the captain last year, and now Joe, who's the captain this year, we're in contact like at least 3 times a week. What are you guys doing? This is what we're doing. Who you guys got
I
on a TTS
remember
scrim?
being mistaken because I think we've had a sparring against you guys
Yeah,
or against Irish, and I remember there was Epsy, guy with a nickname of
that's
Epsy.
Pierce. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember him being like, maybe we played you guys, and he was on the team, and I was confused as hell because of the
yeah,
of him being Irish rather than Northern Irish.
yeah.
So
So we were able to. So we would take like players here and there if we needed them, and we would work really closely together. We played against. We tried to play against everybody. You guys, Canada. We've played Canada a couple of times. Again, Chris is really like so helpful because we're at the opposite end as what they're trying to be at. So I find that every captain so far has been really helpful. No one ever really holds back real information. They give it like no problem because everyone's wanting to make it
maybe
better and more
before list
professional.
release.
Yeah, before this release anyway. So I find that TTS was invaluable. Like you have to play it. Um, Sometimes we couldn't get the most optimum team, but we still put something together, put lists together, and it was good for me to practice matrices against you guys, and all the other teams. It's good for us to practice list submissions and try and get the list in the right format, make sure it's all good, and then you put it out and sort of see where you're hitting. Um, so
One
they help
thing
quite a
I
bit.
would mention One thing I would mention is that what Cathal meant, Cathal, how do you
Cahill,
pronounce it?
Cahill, yeah,
Cathal,
Cahill,
more like
yeah,
with H rather than
yeah,
TH. Okay,
yeah,
so what Cathal mentioned is more after each scream, when whoever we played, we always shared our estimations and
hmm,
talked through with the opponents to find where we had different ideas, what didn't work, where we had bad presumptions about specific matchups. And I think it's always eye opening because you tend to get steer in your own pot with your friends, getting lost in your own meta, and all those screams allow you to see stuff that you wouldn't see otherwise.
Mhm.
Maybe even with the globalization of 40k nowadays, with more and more events happening, we still only know mostly about UK and US, right?
Yeah.
Those are like
And
the most viral.
like you
Yeah,
say about the stirring pot, like we could have games where, for example, one of our the Death Guard player we have, he could I beat him every single week without fail. But if as soon as I tried to play somebody else who plays a slightly different play style with sisters, sorry, all of a sudden you were struggling a wee bit because they played it slightly different than what he played it, or you play Death or you play Dark Eldar different than what our guy plays it, and then all of a sudden you would think you're going to get a score, and you definitely don't. Not when someone plays it slightly differently, and it's getting that
yeah,
insight to be like, right,
and there's additional layer about playing those TTS screams. I'm trying to sell them even more for any team that's not using that tool because I think it's invaluable when you want to get on top. There is another thing that if I were playing you in a scream, 14 players that are remaining players in our team could actually watch those games. So
yeah,
everyone, not only the players who are playing the games themselves, are getting the information. It's everyone involved. So there is
yeah.
it expedites the whole process of upskilling your community because of it.
And what you find as well is everyone says TTS is shit, and TTS is shit. But when we have a TTS scrim, you have like you have the 8 players that are playing in the scrim, and then you have like 5 or 6 more people that you're like, here, who wants into this server? These are the games. This is what's happening.
Yeah,
Who wants in? And you get like 10 extra people in, and all of a sudden on a Friday night at 8 o'clock, you have fucking 25 people watching the game. You're like, I thought you didn't care, yeah, but really they do. Like really, people want to watch 40k, and you want to watch 40k with games you know is going to be good, and that's what like. There's lots of content out there, but the content that's really good and really valuable for you is quite limited, right?
yeah.
So you watch The Art
And
of War, you
usually,
watch.
like
Go ahead.
most people wouldn't produce content on very high level because that's a really small niche. Like there's not many people who would watch that gameplay. I would guess. So that makes sense. And I would say that there's another layer that people would join to watch those games, but they themselves would be scared to play because they would feel judged. There's like the just the human part of yourself that you are scared of it, and that's what we've tried to ease in our community as well. Like just try it, see if it's for you. Maybe you won't like it.
Like I 100% agree, and I'm not a veteran player like you, but I'm a veteran player for our community, and I have no problem with people watching my games. But I joined a tryhard team recently, and we played in the tryhard league, and I was a bit apprehensive about playing in that server because even you still go, ooh, I don't know if I want like loads of people watching. Do you know what I mean? You go,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it because people don't actually interact unless you get something really wrong or you're really struggling with a rule or something. Then someone will say, look, this is how this works. Or if you're not sure about something, people are always there to help. But never be afraid to play on TTS and think that someone watching is going to make a dick out of you because that's not how it works. We're all human. Everyone plays the game slightly different, or everyone makes mistakes,
Yeah,
and
and from my
it's good to,
experience, usually people watching aren't people who are watching it all the time. It's mostly like a background noise.
yeah, you're listening to it. I would do it in work where like you get the laptop on and you
Yeah,
just put your earphones in and fixing the car and you hear what's going on and you're not really paying that much
same.
attention to it. But
Sometimes I would just put that game in the background instead of listening to music during work. And if I heard somebody asking a question, I could pop in, but maybe sometimes I would take a look to see what's happening. But you also mentioned that you plan on choosing the team a little bit later. Is there like any criteria, anything you have in mind? Because obviously there's gonna be 10th coming. Like you need to choose players who are more agile in a sense that they could. easily
Yeah.
adjust? Is there any
Well,
process?
what I found this year, and last year as well, which is quite good, is that guys are playing different armies and they're playing different styles of armies, right? So we end up having like at the minute in our top six, all six are playing different armies, but they also play a different army as a second army. So okay, we've got like two or three guys that can play custodes, and we've got say two guys that will play Marines. One plays Blood Angels, and one plays Iron Hands, and one plays White Scars. But then we've got a Nids player, a Dark Eldar player, a Harlequins player, and a Demons player. So and then they've got second armies. So it's quite like we're quite versatile. I think this year, out of any year, we're a bit more versatile than we have been. Um, we get lulled in that last year we were a wee bit unlucky because one of our players had a baby in June, July. So just before list submission, we were juggling. We were like, right, he hasn't played the new Knights Codex. I sort of want to take double Knights, but he's got loads of reps of Grey Knights. So we're like, right, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And it turned out to be a mistake. It was like, oh, we should have taken that other one. And it's not on him. It was just on reps. So part of the criteria will be like flexibility, but I think we do have a lot of flexibility anyway with the guys that are on the cusp. And then the joy about having the squad is those last two spots can be lifted by, if everyone's going, all of a sudden we need a demons army, right? We can bring in that demons player, he can play. We can bring in that guard player. We can bring in that admech player, whatever it is.
So you're
But
thinking like the last two spots can be even filled after the release of 10th. That's what you have in
oh,
mind, kind of.
well, what I want is hopefully, right? Hopefully that'll be the case. But what we could end up having is we could end up having guys being like, well, if I'm not sure if I'm going to go, then you know, I don't know if I want to put that sort of money away, not knowing.
Yeah,
So we're going to have more of a think about it after home nations, but ideally you want to leave it as late as possible, right?
yeah, but you kind of cannot afford it in a
Yeah.
sense, like unless you're living in Belgium and can. It's just another weekend for you. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. Yeah, and one question that I was asked previously by different captains, and I'm kind of curious as well. How do you guys handle like the costs of the travel? Do you have a sponsor? Do you have like any system
Um,
in place? I know you. I don't know if you listen to the previous episodes. Like French have that insane setup where everything is paid, which is nuts.
well, we
And
we
Dutch,
have tried.
yeah,
We have tried for sponsors. So we were quite lucky last year that Bastion Games sponsored all our jerseys. Well, I sponsored a jersey for everybody, so that's a big hit from them, right? And we had another sponsor on that wanted to stay sort of quieter that paid for all our objective markers. So it's we've got guys there that want to give a wee bit here and there, but most of it is self funded. The whole idea for the new logo was to make it easier for us to get sponsors because when you've got a red hand in Northern Ireland, it can be quite contentious, right? Because half the community likes
okay.
it, half the community doesn't. So we tried to change the brand to be more inclusive for everybody. So this T-shirt, like if we got a sponsor in West Belfast, they could hang it on the wall. If we get a sponsor in East Belfast, they can hang it on the wall. So that was the whole idea of it. So we are in the process of trying to get sponsors, and we do have some guys in the background that will give us a wee bit. But obviously, we'd love to get more. It'd be handy.
So, how many new players, like new faces, do you expect to have this year?
This year, new players to the team so far. We've got well, two new players for me, but they've returned to the game from like 10 years ago. So they went away, had kids, and now have come back. So they're new faces to me. We've got two on the team this year. And last year we had five. So we're still quite a young team. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of our veterans sort of
Where
stepped
I'm
away.
getting at with that question is, as you have, as you said, you have more experience than most of the guys at this point. Do you have any plans, or are you doing something special to make sure that those new players are getting familiar with the whole setup, with the whole event? Like most teams would get those play those screams, etc., which we know
Yeah.
you do. But do you have anything else, like Dutch, for example, organize once a month 8v8s within their own community? Do you do something like
Well,
that?
we do the bi-weekly. We do the internal training that's open. So what we done at the start of this, at the start of the year, was we said, right, the squad is open to absolutely everybody. All you got to do is put your name down on this bit of paper or in this Discord to say that you're interested in being on the team. And it didn't matter what your skill level was. You could have been someone that's just painted one model, or you could have been someone that's played 10 years. Everyone got a fair crack at it, and everyone then gets to post. This is what we're doing. We're going to have a training session next Thursday. It's going to be at this location. Who can play? And then that then drives people forward to play. And we've had quite a few. What I've been impressed with is maybe not people like stepping up in the first instance and saying, yes, I want to play. But Wednesday evening comes and we've got a guy drops out. It's the newer guys that are going, here, actually, yes, I want to step in. Or it's the less experienced guys saying, can I come? Yeah, of course you can. Come on down. We put a quick matrix together for them, and then they can see what happens, and then they play a game and they come away going, geez, I really enjoyed that. That was something different than just going to a singles event and playing for myself. It was good to be in a room with 10 people. Well, originally you're in a room with 5 people, and then the 10 of us come together and we talk about what happened and what happened in the games, and they love that aspect of it.
And
So yeah, that's
I assume you're playing the 20 nil system.
oh yeah, only 20 nils here.
But also, like your events, you do not play win or lose.
No, we play 20 nils,
Okay,
which is
good.
really frustrating as a sisters player. It's so frustrating
Why so?
because you always end up with like 12 eights, 12 eights, 12 eights.
Yeah,
You
fair.
know,
But
15
at the
fives
same
maybe.
time, yeah, but you know how it is. Like those scores do not really translate between systems. Like
No,
you getting high wins in win draw lose doesn't mean you will get high wins in 20 nil. So
yeah, exactly. It ends up being
it's completely different
19
word.
9 or 11 9. So,
And
which is really good. Like that's interesting because we have that conversation as we're building lists, and we'll all. What's quite open about our community is we've got a massive tournament happening. Well, massive for us is like 40 people happening in February, and we're all very open in how our lists are looking and what we're thinking of bringing, and you know, and everyone always comes to the conclusion of, fuck, if I was playing win loss, this list would be really good, but because we're playing 20 nil, we have to adapt the list slightly different because it has to be more killy. It has to be, if I want to win big, then it has to really pound people. So it's quite interesting that like different communities will view things differently. Do you know what I mean? If I was playing in win loss in England, our lists would look different than they do playing here
yeah,
because we're not playing win loss.
yeah, and it makes perfect sense. Like it's just different scoring system, which is funny enough for those who might not have been playing the game so far back. The 20 nil system was one suggested by GW like 20 years ago. So it was their
My
idea,
head.
by the way.
Trying to get the shine
So
off my head, but it's not happening.
no, man, like that's age for you. I like give me 10 years, I'll be with you. Uh, so, and you mentioned you guys sharing the ideas of your lists and being very open, which I think is great if you want actually to get better for WTC because you are not holding back. You are trying to upskill everyone and share what you know, which I think is a great thing, especially in a smaller community. Like you need to nourish it.
Yeah.
You need to make sure it stays put. But you mentioned sharing lists. How do you guys approach choosing the armies then? Obviously, you can walk me through like previous year, or how do you plan doing this
Well,
year, or whatever is your idea.
what we'd done last year was we first of all looked and seen what people were playing. So because reps are king, right?
Yeah.
When we went to home nations, we got laughed at because we didn't bring Marines. Marines had just come out with like the Salamanders, Armor of Contempt, and all that shit, but we brought Custodes instead. and we got laughed at for it. And then the Custodes ended up 20-0 on three of the Marine players and beating Orcs and something else. He came away with like lots and lots of points, like played really well. So that was just because he had played lots and lots of Custodes up to that point. So it didn't make sense to take him off that and put him on two Marines with 2 weeks prep. The rest of the armies were sort of picked up. I was playing Sisters. I mean, you Sisters were consistent. They were always getting like you were minimum was the draw. That was
That
it.
Home Nations was after Nephilim?
Yes. No,
Okay.
no, no. Home Nations. Home Nations was the one in between. So you had Nephilim and
And okay, so before Nephilim, after the Data Slate.
yeah, yeah. So it was in
Cool.
May. Um, our new Sisters were consistent. Um, we made them. Yeah, we knew Sisters were consistent. We took Chaos Knights. We took Grey Knights just due to again reps being king. The guy had a baby, so couldn't really push him off something else. We took Death Guard. Um, we took
You mean
Blood
WTC
Angels.
now?
Yeah, last
Okay,
yeah
cool.
WCC there. Um,
Cool.
we took Crons. So
S-
because Nephilim had dropped, we ended up depending quite a bit on. We depend quite a bit on like content coming out because a lot of other teams were getting more games than we were. So we depended a bit on the information that was getting dropped back to us. So it came down to a mix of right. We know Crons is going to be good. We know Sisters are still good. We know Chaos Knights are good, and then it became like a mad rush for the last ones because there was like 5 or 6 armies that it could have been, and then within those 5 or 6 armies, there's like 2 or 3 lists it could have been, and we just sort of had to try and pick information from wherever we could and put it out there. We didn't have the luxury of getting like 40 games in and having loads of people to play on TTS because when you're coming up to WTC, it's hard to get the time to be like, oh, wife, I'm going to be away. I'm going away to play Toy Soldiers for 4 days. But in the run up to that, I need to play like 10 games a week. So it sort of hit us a bit hard. And I think 10th will hit us hard that way too. We'll be
yeah.
dependent a lot on information from other places. Um, yeah.
So is that something that you are kind of working on with the idea of having 15 people as well to
But
make sure that you
what
have wider group to deal
if we
with
have
it?
15 people, then we have 15 more, we have more games happening and we have more armies with a variety of armies. So yeah, that is part of the plan. And it's again, it's going to be hard to say to somebody, "Oh, your army just got shit 2 weeks ago, so now you're not playing. Someone else is going to play, or you've got to jump onto another army." But unfortunately, that's if you want to be competitive, it's the sort of position you have to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's also like one of the requirements of being a captain that sometimes you need to make those hard decisions, which is
Yep.
always rough.
Yeah.
Like
You never
you
want to take
need
the hit
to,
yourself, right? But sometimes you may have to. Um, just depends on what way the
yeah.
meta swings.
So in your case, it's more of a limited time, and it will be an issue once again. Um, I think it will be an issue for most teams. Like I think we will get the leaks beforehand, like we usually do.
Yeah,
Maybe some teams will have like 1 2 weeks head start, but
I think it'd be
it
interesting though. Like if like they normally do, if the box set comes out, say start of June, but the rules like we've got guard have come out like a month ago, 6 weeks
or
ago. We know what the
orcs.
rules are, but they're and works, but they're not actually out. They could do the same thing with the box set, bring the box set out, but the rules don't come out for another 6 weeks. So where would you stand there? Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a bit of a kick in the dick.
Yeah, I think the whole idea and the uncertainty of what's gonna happen is kind of bad. Like for every captain, but I don't know how you voted. I myself did a poll within my team and voted for playing New Edition because for me the idea of spending 1.5 months not being able to read anything and being basically secluded from the rest of my community would suck. So
Yeah,
I just didn't like that idea. So how was the reaction within your community for the essentially a rush
we
that will be the 10th edition?
I would need to go back. I need to go back and take a look at it. We voted the same way you guys did. You put it to anyone who's got a cup and get a vote. But we're a wee bit. We're like, who gives a fuck? It's going to be what it's going to be. At the end of the day, it's we toy men, and if it comes out 6 weeks prior, then we're just going to have to adapt and just go for it. And no one really cares what Northern Ireland think anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're just going to show up,
I
play the
mean,
game, and
you guys care. Like you've set yourself some bigger goals, right? I think like whichever team I talk to, they always have like a stable goal set to improve from year to year. What is yours in that sense?
so our goal set was to last year. Our goal set was to beat the teams around us. So it was just a case of we knew we enjoyed the pool, like we enjoyed the group stages. I think you were a bit pessimistic on it, but we enjoyed it because it gave us a chance to play against three teams which should be better than us, and we can prove that we can actually play 40k. So in our group, we had Canada, Sweden, and Wales, and we were like, right, well, Wales is our target. We can, if we play Wales, let's try and beat them, and then let's ruin either Canada or Sweden's tournament. Let's just fuck it up on them, get a draw, get something. We tried, but we didn't. But we beat Wales, so we were like, right, that's part of our goal. Then on the Saturday morning, we played against Romania, who normally beat us, and we beat them. So we were like, fuck, right, okay, let's go. So now we ended up being like 15th or something. And we just flew, I think, too close to the sun too early. So we got Scotland and we got beat by 2 points. So we were like, now normally Scotland hammer us at home nations. Scotland beat us like 110. They really fucked us. But this time we were like, right, we've got their number. Let's go for it. And we were just off by 2 points. And we can see in the games like this is where we could have got that. This is where we could have got that.
Oh, you always know. Like
Yeah,
everyone will not forget what they've done wrong. It will
yeah.
get engraved in your soul.
It's so bad. And then we played against Iceland, and again we get beat by 2 points. It was either 2 points or 1 point. It was like, do you know what I mean? Like these teams normally hammer us, and we're this close to getting a result. And the best result we've ever got is 5 points. So we were like, right, we need to. So that was part of the goal. We beat Wales, we beat Romania, but we're fighting with the guys that should normally be tanking us, and we're actually doing okay. And then we played Greece, and I think just last game of the tournament, getting beat by 4 points altogether in two games, the guys' heads were just a bit down, and it just sort of it blew the wind out of our sails. And a couple games went turned really early, which then meant that in games where we'd normally like push for a draw or push for a small win, we were like, no, we'll have to get the big win, and then we don't get the big win, we get fucked because of it. So our goal is still to do the same thing. Our goal is to beat the teams that are in and around us, and then see if we can ruin someone's tournament. That's that's the goal. We're not going to win, but we want to be finishing like 20th, 18th, 15th, 12 places above where we normally finish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Slowly getting
and
like
it,
you're growing your community. You're getting more people accustomed to the idea. Like you're at that growth stage that you didn't really have also like players who were in that top five,
yeah.
which
So
which also is a lot of experience, even though like I
yeah, like if
think
you look
in
at the
Polish community,
Scotland game,
when I look back at Polish community, we usually have 2, 3 veterans that just teach
yeah,
everybody else.
yeah,
So
we I thought you meant by like top five players and like top five in a tournament. Scotland had Ennis. Do you know what I mean? Who's sitting like
yeah,
10th in the world at the minute? You take Ennis out of that team, and they were there for at least a draw, right?
yeah.
But they do have him, so they get to use him, and that's cool. There was something I was going to say there. Doesn't matter, forgotten.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, coming back to that, to one thing you mentioned also, the fact about people morale going down. Do you I found this is something that for me as a captain was one of the hardest things to handle because every person requires more personal approach there, and
Mhm.
you do not have that much time between games to actually take care of everyone. Do you guys have like, or you, because you, as I think Root said, every captain is basically you need to manage people. Like being captain is more like managing people rather than being insanely good at 40k. So, do you guys have any like ways you dealt with team stuff? Like Aussies, for example, choose the team in a way that they gel very well together, which makes sense because they need to travel for 36 hours with each
Together, yeah.
other. So they want to like each other. Do you guys have anything like that set in place about team spirit and helping each
We
other?
get well as people, like as a normal culture for us, we're quite good at that. I think, like Irish people in general and Northern Irish people are quite good at keeping each other g'd up with a dark sense of humor and with, you know what I mean. We call it
Yeah,
slagging, so we just make fun of each other all the time, and it's just there to try and help and build it up. It was just, I think it was just like I say, it was just tiredness and this real fucking close defeat again, like two in a row. If we had got like a draw against one of those two teams, then the game in the Greece would have been a completely different story. But it was hard for us to pick up because it's hard to, even as a captain, when that happens, it's really difficult to then try and G it back up again. But I think we can learn from it because a non-playing captain would be able to take that hit better than a playing captain, I think. Or
yeah,
if our coaches were quite like our coaches had never coached before, so someone having that wee bit more of an insight into giving a bit of a rousing speech or something, or getting all the boys together would have helped a bit more. But we just it just didn't quite happen at that time. Are we more better equipped for it now after it's happened? Yeah, 100%. But because we'd never been through it before, then we didn't quite know how to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I think now that the whole team has been through it. We've had the highs of a win by 1 point. We've had the highs of hammering somebody, and then we've had the lows of getting hammered and losing by 2 points. So as a whole group, everyone's grown, and then we'll all be able to help each other through that sort of situation again, helping you guys coming through. You know,
Yeah, no, and how was the feeling about the event in your team? My team, I had four new players this year. It was supposed to be five, and both our coaches, it was their first event. They were all like, "This was the best event of my life." Like they were like so ecstatic, and they felt like it was truly a culmination of a few years of their trying to get to a certain level. How did your team feel about it?
in the airport on the way home, we all felt pretty shit.
Oh,
But when we got to the, but we felt shit because of the day that just happened, right? And then after we got off the plane and the Monday morning came, we were like, that was really fucking good. Like, who wants to go again? Guys before they went were like, oh no, I don't think I'll do it next year. And everyone came back saying, I'm definitely going next year. It's 100% happening. Even if I've got to go and be a water boy, it's happening. So, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's a really good experience. Go away with a load of friends and just live the dream, playing toy shoulders, drinking beer. Yeah, it's hard to beat. Yeah.
and like with the Nephilim dropping in, I imagine it was a huge hit for you guys. But then it meant also that the whole meta changed. So after the lease release, I assume there were many armies that you guys didn't anticipate they would happen. Like I think most of the meta was kind of clear before Nephilim. There were a few odd choices, but I think most people agreed what would be the top armies. So how did you guys prepare after the Nephilim?
So
So after the lease release, like when you knew what's
yeah,
happening,
so
when you knew the
what we done
points.
was I originally was like, right, we'll try and look at all the lists that we can, but it doesn't work because there isn't enough time. So we concentrated a lot on the three games we played on the Friday, and then at the end of every night. So we knew who we were playing first thing in the morning. So first thing Saturday morning was Romania. We all went back to, so on the Friday night, we all went and found a bar. And we sat outside with a laptop. Everyone got a beer. And we just rhymed through the lists, right? This does this, this does this. Who knows about this list? Who knows what's this relic do? And everyone just sat around. We sat for an hour, blasted through it. And then it was kind of like during the lunch breaks, you obviously done the second game. For next year, I think we'll do more prep into more teams because you sort of have an idea now. After this year was a bit of an unknown because everyone had been away for 2 years, you didn't quite know how Denmark were going to do. You didn't know how Holland were going to do. You didn't know how Poland were going to do. So it was hard to determine where the groups were going to lie. Whereas this year, you can nearly go, right, they are going to be your top two. These are going to be your bottom two. Right, we're going to concentrate on these 12 lists or these 12 nations and the three that are in our pod. And then that way you'll be at least 50% prepared because we're probably not going to see we're not going to see a Poland unless you're in our group. We're not going to see a USA. We're not going to see an England. So if we do, then we've done something really fucking well, or they've done something really wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think a
Yeah,
bit
that's
more
something
prep
that
this year.
Ines mentioned, that the whole group stage is, in a sense, it's great for the top teams that they can anticipate who will they play moving on, like who will get on the top spot from other groups. But on the other hand is what you mentioned, that you guys could spend more time and prepare. So
Mm-hmm.
you guys got the exposure to play the top team, which I think is the best thing about the whole idea of the pods. But at the same time, I agree it's a little bit like prep hammer. But I think it's a great
Yeah.
way to make sure that the lesser teams, not the top dogs that try to fight for the top five, will get better over time. Which,
Like there's no other way of getting better than playing people that are better than you are. So
yeah,
it's good for us to play against. It was good for us to play against Canada, Sweden, and even and Wales because they're all teams that are usually better than us, and we give them all a good fight. And what was even better is Chris Canhammer, um, Swedish captain. His name is just forgotten. He is also bald with a ginger beard. Um, and
uh,
and the
Pa- Daniel Hesselberg,
Pop,
he was the
that's
captain.
him,
Papa
Papa
D, Papa D,
Papa D.
Papa D.
And
No sexual
Tom Layton.
innuendos.
Yeah, and Tom Layton. Everyone after it would definitely talk to you. They would give you insight into what they thought was happening. Do you know what I mean? And then for the rest of the tournament, they came back to make sure and see how you were getting on. Do you know, how do you get on against these guys? How do you get on against these guys? Oh, you should try. Watch out for this happening. Watch out for this happening. Everyone was always really open and helpful, and that's what we need. Whereas if we don't play against those teams on the Friday, I think they're changed it this year to a Thursday, Friday, haven't they? Have they?
No, no. I think this year, obviously, nothing is really set. But what I heard is we will still have pods, and pod will be 3 games, but it will be 2 games on Friday, one on Saturday, and there will be only 3 games outside of a pod.
Oh, okay.
Which at this, like, I'm not really sold on it, but at the same time, experiencing the 3 games on Friday, I would rather do anything else than that third game on the fucking Friday. So
Everyone's there on Thursday. Just do it on a Thursday night. Do a game on Thursday
one
night.
game like
First pod game.
Thursday. Yeah,
Bang. Thursday night. 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Because everyone's there Thursday morning, or Wednesday. But yeah, I sort of lost where we were, but that's a good
it's
chat.
completely
Anyway.
fine, man. It's completely fine. You were mentioning like how you enjoyed the help from other teams and how you could prepare for your pod.
Yeah, so you
So
never get that help if you don't play those teams, right? If you don't scrim with them or if you don't give them in your pod, then you don't have that interaction all the time, you know? So
yeah,
yeah, it's good. I think the pod system's good and it should stay because it makes it more like a World Cup. You will get that upset. You'll get that Belgium drawn against Poland. You'll get,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? You'll get something happening. Um, they'll get us beating Wales. You'll get fucking Austria playing somebody that they're beating someone that they shouldn't beat. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
about.
yeah. And those are matchups that usually wouldn't happen because
Mhm.
it was kind of. breath of fresh air for me as well. Like our team was what? Belgium, Switzerland, and Denmark. I
That's a tough
played
group.
only against I played only against Denmark before. And it's like I met two new faces when I recall like previous years where I played at WTC. Back then it was ETC. I usually played one team round one. Like not the top team, and then we just went through five top teams,
Yeah,
which is I think it's great. While at the same time, what I really like about the pod system as well is you actually get those interesting pods that you look into. What was it? Germany, Spain, Scotland, someone else. I think
yeah.
that was like my group that I wanted to look at most. Like,
Norway, I think it was.
yeah, Norway as four. Like that was a group that I expected that there were potential upsets everywhere.
Yeah. And we
So
could look at our group as well, right? So our group was Sweden, Canada, Wales, and us. And we had just played at Home Nations and we had beaten Wales and we finished above Sweden. And then Canada are a team there that could be like they could be taken. We drew with them in a TTS scrum recently. So it's like anything could have happened in our group.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
yeah, I think
I
it's
think it's good.
fun. And I also, from like narrative point of view, when you think about creating a storylines behind the event, I think it's great because you can give like in-depth information about the pod and actually create something that people would like to follow.
Yeah.
Because there are always stories. Like some teams have more interesting stories. You guys had rather sad stories. So, and it's something that you can frame into like a country trying to rise above their problems that they encountered. Or you have teams like Aussies coming back from winning last year and trying to win again, right?
Yeah.
But you can also give a frame that some of them aren't playing anymore at that event because they decide that they won everything they could win in their life. So it's not as clear set as clear contenders as before, right? So it's
Yeah. It creates for a good story, my friend.
yeah, and I think that's great. I think more people should know about those different countries because we all play 40K, and who knew that the biggest events in the year happen actually, except Vegas and LGT, they happen in Paris and Calavera. Like, like who
The,
knew? Like, no one knows
I,
except those communities, and I think those are stories that we could tell if we actually took a deeper look into those communities.
I was kind
So
of blown away. I was driving, listening to the last episode with the French captain, and he was like, "Yeah, we have 1,000 players in our community." It's like, "What? 1,000 players?"
yeah, 108-man teams, like,
Yeah,
bro. So that's completely nuts. And looking back at last year as a captain, as a team, what was like a clear thing that you were unhappy about that you would like to change in your approach, or something that you clearly fucked up, or like a main takeaway?
ooh, ooh. Um,
You can now
main
throw
takeaway.
somebody under a bus and tell they are shit. Like being a
No,
good
I
captain,
yes,
leading by
right.
example.
We we shouldn't have taken the death guard list we took. We should have took a slightly different one. But take that, Gareth. No, to be honest, my team themselves were great. Everyone put in the effort that they were supposed to. I think one takeaway that we've brought this year, one negative, was we peaked too early. So we put loads of prep in, like October, November, December. January came,
Oh,
we took a
that's way early.
yeah, and we took a wee bit of a break, and then all of a sudden we couldn't. We had a good home nations, which was fine, but we couldn't quite get the momentum back again. And by the time we got to WTC, everyone was fucked. Everyone was burnt out. So this year we've started. We've only we've been doing our team practices, but we've only started our scrimming now to try and get it down because we don't
Yeah.
want people to be burnt out. Um, so that's one takeaway. That was
And
one
we
negative.
will get burnt out because of 10th.
Yeah. So
Every nation, like I can imagine that just as the event finishes, we'll hear like a breath of everyone when they breathe, just of it's
It's,
done. It's finished. No longer we need to do this. I
so
obviously
yeah,
mean is like people love the event, but it's still a lot. It takes a toll on
yeah,
you. And have you ever looked into how much time you spent as a captain? By the way,
no,
have you tried to ballpark it? Like,
no, no, wouldn't want to. It's not so much in this place, but in the last place I was in, I was doing engine rebuilds all the time. So it's just like engine after engine after engine. So I had earphones in, and I would be on like calls all day, talking shit to people, talking lists, talking armies, talking models. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to add it up because it is like a second job. My wife will say it's definitely like a second job. So it's giving me the evils in the corner now. You don't want to add it up. And the thing about being a captain as well that people don't see is a lot of the time in the community is good. It's all hunky dory. It's brilliant. But whenever something goes wrong, so unfortunately this year, well, last year we had a player pass away, John Stowe, who's on our sorry, he's on our t-shirts. He was a big
I
member of our
had the
community.
pleasure.
Yeah, he was massive. Everyone knew him. He'd been there for years and years. Um, Passed away, and as captain, you then have to you've got the burden as such, but it's like at the end of the day, you're calling guys and being like, right, this is what's happened. And you have to be the person to tell them. You have to be the person to phone the guys that are veterans. You know what I mean? If someone hasn't contacted you, you contact them to make sure that they hear it from you. Do you know what I mean? You have to make sure that they. And recently we had Aaron Buckley had a massive accident and was in a coma for a couple of months. He's now on the mend, brilliant, and he's busting my balls to play at WTC.
And
But
he's shit talking
let's
like crazy again.
he's
So
shit talking like crazy, right? But let's just get him back up to sickness again. It was like the girlfriend gets in contact with you because she's not really sure who else to talk to, and then you've got to get in touch with everyone and tell them sort of what's happening, keep them updated. Like that part of being a captain is something that people don't really talk about, but fuck me, it's hard. That's the most
yeah,
straining part for sure.
it's not something you are ever prepared when you think about pushing plastic toy soldiers.
No,
Like,
because it's more. It's when John died. It was we were traveling back from his funeral, and we were at an Apple Greens, and you could see how much more it was to people. It's not just pushing wee toy soldiers about. It's the friendships you make. It's the people
yeah,
you get in touch with. It's then the friendships then become more than just friendships. You know what I mean? You become someone's best man. You become someone's godfather. You become, it's all the stuff that
yeah, yeah.
um
I, I
stems from it.
I get that. I hear it a lot from people that even if the 40k is dog shit at times when it comes to the fun of playing, most people stay just for the community
Yeah,
because when I look at it, like you got a lot of support for Aaron when the war in Ukraine broke out. I know we're getting into serious topics, but I think
yeah,
it's fine. We can talk about something that's not clearly shit posting as usual. Like I remember us trying to sell stuff as a national team, and I think we gathered like maybe £5,000 for
yeah.
charity, and it's great. Like you can feel like there is a community that just wants to help, and
People are more like people just love people. That is just the way it
yeah,
is. Like we're in a chat together as all elder guys, and we do nothing but shit talk all day, every day. But when something goes Pete Tong, the guys are there to back it up. Like he got a card from Rude, like the day after he had his accident. It's like bang, there's a card, and do you know what I mean? Posted through my letterbox. It's like that's crazy. We've got yous being like, right, can we raise money for him? Can we do X, Y, Z? The whole community as a whole here was like, right, what do we need to do? What's he need? What
yeah.
bang, bang, bang. And it's something that I don't think you get it in other things compared to the way you get it in 40k. Good job, nerds.
Yeah, I think the community is great. Like there's a lot of people that would say like the competitive community can be cutthroat, but I think those are very singular situations and singular people that you only hear about because it's one of few hundred games that gets rough, and obviously those get publicized. Not those games where I go to UKTC events and see two guys sharing 5 beers throughout the game, one losing 100 points to 60 and not giving a fuck, just enjoying
No, nobody.
himself. Like,
Like, yeah, people just need to chill the fuck out. And when you chill the fuck out, you have a great time. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Well, keeping in the topic of being a captain, do you have like any specific advice for any new captain? You're a kind of newer person in that role,
Well,
so
yep,
what's
it
like
was my
the
first
one
one.
thing you would tell new people to look at, or any kind of advice?
Don't be afraid to ask somebody. Don't be afraid to open Messenger and send somebody a message. Oh, my messenger is always open. Typhus is always open, and they will always reply without fail. Okay, it might be an hour from now, but any questions you've got, get on to them and ask it. And I think be hard on your team. Let them know from the start what you want from them. What is your goal this year? Is your goal to go away and get drunk? Make it your goal. Is your goal to play as hard as you can and have fun? Then put that in stone before you start, so that you don't get to the competition and someone acts a fucking idiot when they don't need to. And that's it, really. Everyone's always willing to help. They really again, we just talked about the community, but they will always answer your call. They will always humor you for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? They may get off the phone and be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, fucking this guy," but they'll always give you help. Like, so don't be afraid to ask.
we all push plastic soldiers for fun. Like, come on, it
Yeah.
cannot be that serious. Like, it's just fun. And you mentioned about going fucked and just getting a lot of alcohol into your blood. That's another question that I got asked before by another captain to include into the sessions. Do you, as a captain, have a ranking of the limit of alcohol consumptions for your team to know
No.
whether you should limit them? Because actually, like beforehand, I know some teams actually know that some people play better after having a beer or two, but you
Well,
should limit them.
so we tried to come away. So one of the other goals we had was Northern Ireland have always had this name of the team bottle of whiskey. Before you have a game, everyone has a shot, bang, and they drink beer flat out. We wanted to sort of come away from that because we wanted to show that we can actually play 40k. Now, we weren't being like, oh, those old guys just got drunk all the time. It wasn't like that. We just wanted to try and get away from that name. So, did I say to the guys, you're not allowed to drink? No, of course you can have a drink. At the end of the day, this is probably a holiday for you, but play the game as best you can. Do you know what I mean? And try not to get wrecked.
Be
Have a few
responsible.
beers, enjoy yourself. Do you know what I mean? But don't be, because the way I looked at it was, I'm not paying 500 quid to come away, get smashed, and then get absolutely hammered by everybody. We want to spend the money to come away and do as well as we can and enjoy it at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's something that changed a lot throughout the years. When I look back at events in 2012, 13, 14, when I was still a young boy, essentially, a lot of people treated it more as a party. But I feel like 40K is getting more and more professional, and more teams actually treat this very seriously.
Yeah, like at the end of, like, just you took the words out of my mouth. The whole concept of 40k now is pushing towards an esport, and people are a lot more professional. People have coaching services. You know what I mean? You're paying for content flat out. Podcasts coming out every week telling you how it's going. So you want to sort of step up, and I don't think we looked out of place. We didn't look out of place. No one was staggering around wrecked, and no one was fucking making a dick themselves. We played as hard as we could play, and we done as best as we could. But yeah, we wanted to be slightly more professional, and you have to, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, it's actually better. It's going that
I
way.
think
But
after this year, I think COVID made it even more professional. In a sense, I want to believe that us and
yeah,
Aussies, we spent so much time in prep and we were so open about it that I think more teams will actually s- take place and do the same things we did. And
I think
I would
it.
expect like the future year would result in more in like the maybe say places from 5 to 15 getting much more closer on skill level. That's how I expect. Like I would still expect like top 3 5 still being a little bit stronger than the rest, but the rest of the pack getting tighter and tighter over the time.
Yeah. And I can see that too, because like I said, you've got teams like us who were punching above our weight. We ended up being higher than we were supposed to be and just missing out. You give those results to us, and all of a sudden, instead of us finishing 24th or something, we finish fucking 14th, 15th. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, that in itself also shows that from like 8 down to 22, one result changes that whole thing for any
Yeah.
team that's in there. And that's because people are a lot more professional. They view it a lot more professionally now. Okay, we're not getting paid for it, but everyone goes away with the same attitude, I think, that they go away wanting to do as well as they can and making themselves look as good as possible and making their country look as good as possible. And I think you're right, COVID had, I think, has had a lot to do with it because that year was the first year it was on, which meant that the guys that were going to it really fucking wanted to be there. It wasn't the case
Oh,
of
yeah.
like in years gone by, we had, oh, I can't go. Oh, I can't go. Not this year. We had fucking 10 guys wanting to go. Whereas, do you know what I mean? And every country was the same. Every country had more players. Like the Aussies taken away like 4 coaches, 5 coaches. Those guys
Yeah.
traveled 3,000 miles. Do you know what I mean? 36 hours on a plane to come and play toy soldiers, and they weren't even playing. They were standing giving out water bottles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone took that step more professional, I think.
And
So
I
yeah,
think it will progress only over time. And I'm really looking forward. I'm really happy it's looking like that. And I hope more people will appreciate that Team 40K is the best version of the 40K because that's the only
yeah,
version that's balanced.
it
That's
is
actually
because
it's reflects skill compared to the singles, at least in my opinion.
when you can only take one broken Ned's list, that's good to me. You
Yeah.
know,
So, Cathal, on a closing note, do you want to say something to your team, like for the future year, for the previous year? Obviously, wishing Aaron good recovery, speedy recovery. But
yeah.
other than that,
Other than that, yeah, I would just like to thank the guys from last year because even though the result wasn't what we wanted, it still turned out to be a fantastic tournament. And everyone put in the effort. Everyone worked really hard in the background. And then this year, we've got 3 or 4 guys that are really hungry for it, that weren't on the team last year, that are now looking really, really good and helping grow the overall strength of the team. And with the guys that are coming back from next or from last year, have all the experience that they had from last year, and they should just grow from that and bring it forward with them, and just keep up the good work and keep doing what they're doing. That's pretty much it.
so short sellout from my side because I'm officially stat check partner now. So, guys, this was an episode of Enter the Matrix, which is a series that's basically not behind the paywall, but it's released early for Patreons. So, if you want to follow us, you can check our Patreon. You can check our website. We recently partnered with Gunhammer, so you will see a lot more from our side on their website because we'll use more of the actual insights using data to maybe professionalize 40K even more, maybe use finally some machine learning because we finally get decent data to do that. So check our Patreon. You can join our Discord then, check our videos, and maybe Cathal, maybe you want to plug in something for your own community, something where we can follow you and see what's happening in Northern Ireland.
You can join the Northern Ireland Discord. If you want the link, just give me a shout, and hopefully we'll be restarting again our Northern Ireland 40K podcast. Just giving a rundown of what's happening in the community and up and coming tournaments and what the team's doing, stuff like that. So yeah,
Thank you for joining me, Cathal. It was a pleasure. It's always nice to hear different points of views when it comes to this glorious event.
thank you very much.